everyone. It's time now to talk Big 12 football as we continue our 2010 team-by-team preview, and today it's about the Baylor Bears. Now, I'm going to use a prop for this one. Right here you see a chest. I thought I'd take this opportunity for us to take a look at the greatest moments in the history of Baylor football since they joined the Big 12, which is back in 1996. 14 years of Baylor football, and we have it on an awesome DVD collection in this chest. Let's go ahead and take a look here. Yeah, it's empty. And why wouldn't it be? Look, we all know the history of Baylor football since they joined the Big 12. 14 seasons, 14 losing seasons, no bowl appearances, no kidding. And if you look at the forecast for 2010, what a lot of people are saying about Baylor, other than Robert Griffin, they're not worth the price of admission, and this season will be no different than the previous 14. But if Baylor does hope to go to a bowl game, Robert Griffin does have to be a major part of this team, but it can't be just him. Let's talk a little bit about Robert Griffin. If you don't know who he is the quarterback for Baylor, who 2 years ago did a lot of everything, threw the ball well, but was very electrifying, especially in open field with his feet and, of course, his unbelievable speed. Then last year, early in the year, tore his ACL out for the season, and Baylor lost more than just their team leader. They lost more than just a good player. They lost so many intangibles, and Nick Florence, you know, Lord help him, and everything else, did the best he could to relieve Griffin at QB, but Florence, a freshman, got thrown into the fire and could not even come close to being a multidimensional threat for the Bears. Threw the ball okay, but didn't have the intangibles of getting out of the pocket and doing things with his feet. Baylor ended up having another losing season and ended up finishing 4-8 in 2009. Griffin, though, they say he's close to 100%, and he'll need to be. Robert Griffin gave up track and now focus purely on the gridiron. Griffin, if you've never seen him play, again, a very exciting player because of all the different things that he does. And he will have to be Baylor's meat and potatoes. Talking about Baylor and talking about other players, Griffin wasn't the only one immune from injury in 2009. Jay Finley, the running back, even though he returns, a lot of focus will be on his ankle, which last year, although the injury wasn't quite on the same level as Griffin's, the ankle did bother Finley somewhat. His play was pretty limited. His numbers were limited as well. But they figure if he can be 100%, then maybe, just maybe, they'll take a little bit of pressure off Griffin. And Baylor, as far as receivers, they have at least one dandy, and that's Kendall Wright. That's right, Kendall Wright, the former basketball player for Scott Drew and the Baylor Hoops team. The dude can vertical leap 40 inches and has speed. Those things do not hurt, especially in one-on-one coverage. So expect Griffin to be looking for Wright quite a bit this season. Now, another focus for Baylor, of course, is going to be the offensive line. And when you've struggled like Baylor, especially in the recent years, you're going to look to the men up front. And Danny Watkins, you know, this guy last year had all the pressure in the world on him from his offensive tackle spot. Why, you ask? Because in 2009, he had to replace Jason Smith, the All-American, who was the second overall pick in the NFL draft that year. See what I'm getting at? Big shoes to fill. And Watkins, over 310 pounds, they expect him to be the anchor of this offensive line for the Bears. But there are some other issues too, and that is you have to replace the center as well. And Baylor hopes to do that by doing a little bit of reshuffling on the offensive line. Philip Blake will go from tackle to center, replacing J.D. Walden, who's now graduated. And they expect big things as well from Jerry Wade, an up-and-coming offensive lineman for Baylor. Talking about the Baylor Bear defense, and look, I'm not going to lie to you, it was pathetic in 2009. Dead last in the Big 12 in rush defense, and as far as pass defense, not a whole lot better. They didn't get any pressure on the quarterback, at least not enough. 18 sacks is what Baylor had in 2009, just a sack and a half a game. One good thing for Baylor, though, they return plenty of beef on the defensive front. We're talking about one player in particular, Phil Taylor, the dude 6'4" and 355 pounds. What's this guy eating? But they hope that he's improved on his strength, and if so, that can only upgrade Baylor's defensive line. Talking about the linebacking core for the Bears, and they're going to have some rebuilding to do because they lost two valuable pieces to their linebacking core, including Joe Powalik, who seemed to be maybe the anchor of that entire Baylor defense. He's gone, as well as Antonio Jones. So those are two experienced players you no longer have use of. Chris Francis will now be expected to guide the Baylor linebackers. As far as defensive backs go, Tim Atchison, the guy's been around for a while. They're going to move him to safety. He is a senior. But one guy I really want you to keep an eye on for Baylor this year. He's going to play as a true freshman, and he is Tyler Stevenson. Stevenson in high school this past season was blistering fast in the 110 and 300 hurdles. They ain't going to redshirt this guy. He's going to play right away, even though he only weighs 150 pounds. Will he go through some learning? Oh yeah. But they think over time he's going to be a pretty good corner guy. He's going to play, and he's going to play quite a bit in what's going to be his true freshman year. Now, talking about special teams. And as Chris Fowler from ESPN once said, if you go to Baylor, you better learn how to punt. Because they've had pretty good punters, but that's also a bad sign too, because that means they've probably been punting too much because the offense has not been moving the ball very much. Well, Derek Epperson last year had over 42 yards of punt, including 13 punts inside the 20-yard line. So at least as far as field position battle, you know that Baylor might have an advantage there. Epperson had 44 yards per punt 2 years ago, so his average went just slightly down, but he's going to be up there as far as the Ray Guy Award nominees, him and probably Tress Way of Oklahoma. But Epperson, another one to watch for Baylor. Looking at the 2010 schedule for Baylor, you might be thinking, what's the point? It's going to be another long year for the Bears, and you might be right, but at least the first two games should be victories. Hosting both Sam Houston State and Buffalo, win-win right there. And then the road could get rocky from that point on. September 18th at TCU, no way they're going to win that game. TCU's a top 10 team. At Rice, I have going either or. It's a road game, but Rice is not one of the better schools from the Lone Star State. So there's at least a shot at a victory. There's also a shot at a win October the 2nd when they host Kansas for the Big 12 opener, either or in that one. And then for the second straight year, Texas Tech and Baylor will play at a neutral site, as they'll play in Dallas this time. Texas Tech, too much firepower, Red Raiders to win. Then at Colorado, Colorado's just a little bit better than Baylor. The game is in Boulder, and the high altitude could play a factor as well. The Buffaloes to win. And then October 23rd, hosting Kansas State. K-State's got good athletes, but they have to prove that they can throw the ball, which they didn't do a good job of last year. There's actually another shot at a Baylor win there. I'll go either or. And then I've got Baylor losing the last 4 games at Texas, at Oklahoma State, A&M to follow, and then closing out the year against Oklahoma. Keep in mind that Baylor's last game is on November 20th. The bye week will be on November 27th, so unless Baylor gets to bowl eligibility, the season's going to end pretty early for the Bears. They have no bye weeks in between any of those 12 games. Looking at the best case scenario for the Baylor Bears, even in the best case scenario, I don't think they're going to a bowl game, although 5 wins would be an improvement for BU. Worst case scenario is that they're going to once again be made fun of, as they will have a record of 2-10. That's the worst case scenario. Most likely scenario for Baylor, a 4-8 record and finishing dead last, unfortunately a position they're way too used to in the Big 12 South. For Baylor, they've got Robert Griffin. They need to keep him healthy. He's an exciting player to watch. But as far as the entire package, Baylor obviously pales in comparison to the rest of the Big 12 South.